Pulling categories by key. Okay, so I've got over here in the documentation, I want to point out that we don't only have the documentation, we also have a code share. So here in our code share, if you're like looking how to pull categories, you can go ahead and type in categories here in the documentation, and it's got several different code samples that you can download. So get all categories in a category select, categories from a widget in a widget selector, tag cloud. So there's several different examples where you can just, click on it and basically copy and paste some code, right? So this kind of shows you can supply. You can set category key equals, whatever category key that you're trying to pull. In our case, it would be genre. And then for each, of the content that it returns, you can get the children categories by key and then supply that key and then velocity count over the properties. This is being overly verbose, right? Velocity variable, for the parent category name would be whatever, category you're iterating over, just like we did category name just a second ago. You could get the category velocity variable, the category key, and then you can iterate over the next set of children. You could say for each, child or grandchild inside of categories.get children categories by key, and you can go ahead and sort it again, right? And that's just what we're doing in a little widget that I already have pre-prepared, which is real easy. I might have to adjust my pathing, but okay, so I'm basically just setting my category key equals genre, and then I'm just displaying movie categories. And then I've got for each cat inside of categories, got to get categories by key, and then I'm reading that variable that I'm setting right here. And then I'm going to set it to my pathing for my movies is right here, just training, and we want to lead to the detail page. So that would be, well, at first it would be the listing, right? Because we want to sort by the list. So that would be training and movie listing. So training movie listing. Training movie listing. And we could also set the page number and everything like that here, but you could just do an and add the other page parameter, but I think we're already done with the paginated example. So I'm going to go back to my listing, and I'm going to feed up in the URL this category velocity var name, and then I'm going to be setting cat here. And for each child, so I'm going to go to the next tertiary level and do the same thing. And once again, feed the cat up in the URL by velocity variable name. Now my page listing is going to have to be smart enough to not only know whether page number is there, but also whether the category is there, right? So I will once again file and save as. I can save this directly to my global VTL as category listing .vtl. I'll save it right to my server. And then I'm going to modify my template. What I will do, so I'll come over here to the 2-column with side nav template that I'm using right now. I don't want to mess it up for the rest of my pages, so I will copy that. Now I've got a new one. And the only thing I want to do is really I want to take off the this container right here. So I just want to get rid of the side navigation, and then 2-column, no side nav. Save and publish. Now maybe I'll go to my listing page, and I'm just going to get rid of that nav, right? By going to the properties of my page and switching my template. Just by typing the number 2. No side nav is now here in the list. And it parses the other container, the same container. So since it parses the same container, it remembers that on the page. Now I've got a new template that has no side nav to get in my way on the left-hand side. Right, so now I'm going to add widget. I'm going to add a VTL include widget and just parse from the global host. So category listing. And I'm going to browse the global host VTL file, totally abstracted, category listing, and save and publish. And then see that that's pulling all of my my top level genres and plus my tertiary level genres here for sci-fi as well. It obviously needs some styling help, but I think we get the point. So now if I click on any of those, well, let me do it from my, if I now refresh, I've got my movie categories here. If I click on that, it's setting cat equals action var at the top. And why am I supplying the velocity variable here? And then my listing is going to have to be smart enough to recognize that that's being set up in the URL. Because if we come here to the content search manager, we select movies, and maybe we go down here and click on one of our genres like action, and I click search, then I find I've got 2 action movies. And if I look at the query, it's expecting the velocity variable that corresponds to that category. So I can literally copy this, right, and put that right into my movie listing. So I'm going to bring up my movie listing again. Movie listing here, and that is saved to global, so that's the right guy. And then I'll do the same thing I did with pages up at the top here, right? So I'm actually really just going to copy this and set this. And here is where I did that set of my movie list. Or actually, where's my query? Oh, okay, my query is over here, so I will just feed it to my query. I really don't need to do anything else. Okay. So I could put this all right here. That'd be better. Okay. So, and then I'm going to say if it's the request.category, else set a regular query. And if not, then I'm going to set the movie query to include the category. Right? And then all I've got to do is paste this up here somewhere, right? And then this has to be a variable, right? So if request.get parameter instead of page, it's going to be cat, right? Then the first thing I want to do inside of here is set, I don't know, movie cat. Oh no, I've got that. So I'm going to just set cat. That's being used down below. Equals request.get parameter cat. Close that. And then here, I'm just going to be smart about my velocity variable, curly brace cat, right? So if it's set up in the URL, read it, set it to the cat variable, and then filter my movies by category cat, set my movie query, else it'll just set the regular movie query. We could have done that more elegantly, but good enough. And then my movie query is being used right here, which that also should be properly referred to. Best practices, right? Okay. So then let me give that one last look-see. File and save. And now, not only should I should be able to just click on action, and then I automatically get only 2 action movies, right? If I click on adventure, I get all 3. If I click on animation, I only get 1. Click on biography, I get none, right? So sci-fi, subset of sci-fi, right? But I only have these 3 set. And we can see the categories right here. And then we could take that same code that is setting the categories on the left-hand side, right? And if we wanted to be nice about it, the category listing. We just grab this. And we put this right in our movie listing so that as we're iterating over the categories that are actually applied, right, then we don't only supply the category name, but we do the href to the category velocity var name. And that just replaces just simply stating the name, right? Make sense? So now I've got my href that's leading to my same exact page, setting the category velocity var name. And then if it's got next, then it gives me a comma. So then I can come back. Well, let's just go to the front end of this page. And now if I refresh, what don't you like? What did I do? Oh, it's cat, and here it was, that's right. Go back, look at my code that I forgot to look at. Actually, cat here is not right. Here it is for each movie cat, right? Duh. Movie cat. Movie cat. If you're a Friends fan. What was I coding? Okay, we look at it on the back end. Yes, all good. Look at it on the front end, all good. And now no matter whether we click on action over here, or whether we click action over here, or adventure over here, now each of our movies, we click on it and it loads the proper movies. We'd have to add our pagination parameters also to the URL, but we already covered that. Question came in, what is the better way, to do a VTL include or a simple widget? Well, you could do either, but if you drop this right on the page, it becomes an object on the page. So if somebody cascades permissions from the folder and says this user has permission to all files, or all, content on all pages, it could be another webmaster, then and they give too much permissions on that same folder where the pages and then the content exists directly on the page, then they could potentially cascade permissions down and give content publishers the ability to actually edit the simple widget. So I never use simple widgets unless I'm just, and what do I mean by simple widget? Just making sure everybody understands. I don't ever use throw a simple widget and just throw a big blob of code, right here, unless I'm just doing some simple testing. It's fast, it's the most expedient just to go ahead and quickly, throw something, see if it works or not. But actually, if you're editing that same code multiple times, then the VTL is still the most handy because you can always just change and refresh your page, change and refresh your page, change and refresh your page. So unless it's like a super quick test, I never use simple widget at all. I always create a VTL file, upload it as fast as I can, and then edit directly via WebDAV my file. I'm in my favorite text editor. It gives me my highlighting and everything like that. And I don't have to keep opening and closing content to look at a change on my page. I just always just refresh my page and that's it. Okay, another question, how to back up my code and where it is stored. Well, it's already done. That's another thing about VTL files. Although simple widgets have their own code versioning too. So if I go in and I step to my movie listing.vtl, here it is in the history, every change I've ever made. And if I want to click bring back and bring back to a previous version whenever I know it worked, there I go. Okay, whole history, every change, who the user was, when they did it, date stamp, time stamp, everything. Right. So, now if you're talking about GitHub or something like that, you wanted to store an external repo, you could do a little plugin for something like that, but we don't do that right out of the box. But we just keep the complete version history right there inside of dotCMS. So it's already, every change you make through your favorite text editor is stored, saved, and bring backable. Okay, great question.